Welcome to another episode of the GayBarchives show, where we explore gay history one bar at a time. I'm your host, Art Smith, and today we're going to be heading up to the Pacific Northwest, looking at a brand new bar in Portland, Oregon. The Sports Bra is the brainchild of owner Jenny Nguyen. So welcome to the show, Jenny.
Thanks for having me.
You're quite welcome. So as you know, I've been documenting the history of gay bars around the country for several years, and I've already recorded more than 2,000 that no longer exist. And of course, the Lesbian Bar Project has recorded the fact that there are so few lesbian bars left. But you're kind of bucking the trend and decided to open up a bar wittily called the Sports Bra in the Pacific Northwest in Portland, Oregon, right at the end of the pandemic. How did that come about?
Well, it's a really kind of long-winded story, but for the most part, the idea for the Sports Bra started out between my friends and I as more of a joke and more of like this fantasy land that we would refer to whenever we got frustrated with things. Like if we couldn't find a game on at a bar or something, we'd be like, oh, this game would be on at the Sports Bra. Or, you know, a lot of my friends are vegan and we'd go and there'd be nothing for them to eat. And we'd be like, oh, you know, at the Sports Bra, we'd have vegan options on the menu. So it was more of kind of just this fantasy land that we would refer to. But it wasn't until 2020 when I was in between jobs and kind of in this limbo land. And, you know, the climate was shifting as far as, you know, how people were reevaluating their lives and their priorities and how they wanted to move forward in the world. And I know I was one of millions of people that was kind of doing that exact same reevaluating. And I kind of grew frustrated with myself and was trying to figure out what I could do to just how I can contribute to the changes that were happening in the world. And so it wasn't until that moment where my girlfriend Liz was like, hey, you know how you always joke about the Sports Bra? And I was like, yeah. She goes, why don't you do that? And when she mentioned it, I kind of thought to myself, I don't understand how that would make any difference at all. But then we started to talk about it, and you know, the equal pay for equal sport for the like women's soccer was a really big deal at the time, and there was a lot of things coming to light in women's sports, and so it started to build and build and build this idea of the Sports Bra, and it got to the point where I was waking up thinking about it and going to bed thinking about it. And I finally was just like, you know what, if I don't do this, I'm really going to regret it. And so it almost felt like I needed to do it. So I just went ahead and put all my cards in. So that's kind of how it started.
Now, your background was in the kitchen, not as a business owner, not as a bartender, not as a public figure, but you were a chef.
That's correct. Yeah. The last 15 years I'd spent in the back of house cooking.
So was there some trepidation about that? All of a sudden you were going to be the face of this business that was going to be pretty public. I mean, people were going to hear about it. How did that impact your thought process?
Honestly, it was 110% completely just throwing caution to the wind. You know, I knew that I was completely out of my element. The very first thing I did when I decided that I was going to go for it was I wrote the menu, because it was like literally the only thing I knew how to do. I was like, you know what, let's start with something I know how to do. Let's write the menu. And so I did that. And then everything else was basically admitting to myself that I didn't know anything. And so reaching out to the community and finding people who knew all the things that I didn't know, and then asking for as much help as I could possibly get. So when I think about the Sports Bra, I think about the community it took to get to where we are now. Like, a lot of people see me as the face and as the founder of it, but like ultimately it took thousands of people together to make this dream into a reality.
Now we know you have a sense of humor. The name of the bar itself, the Sports Bra, is kind of punny, witty, makes you think a little bit.
Hmm.
You kind of carry that through with the slogan that you use, "We support women," which
Hmm.
obviously plays back to both community support as well as the function of a bra. Um, and you opened on April Fool's Day.
Hmm.
Um, was that just happenstance? That's when everything fell into place, or did you consciously say, "Hey, let's wait a few days and open on April Fool's Day because that'll be kind of, people won't know if we're really going to open or if we're just joking that we're going to do this on."
Sure. Yeah, actually, so with the name The Sports Bra, it came very, very quickly and very, very easily. It just made sense. As soon as I thought of it, I was like, that's got to be it. It's catchy. It makes sense. The motto is going to be "We support women," and it's funny and punny and all of the above. And for the most part, when people drive by the first few times, they thought that the place was just called the Sports Bar, and they were just like, "I don't get it. Like, that's a lame name." So it was easy to gloss over. And for all those reasons, I thought it was a really great name. So that stuck really quickly and really easily. Um, and then just, with the April Fool's opening, I had planned on opening on April 1st as my target date from the beginning. And the reason why is because the very first time that I had thought about the sports bra, it was during the championship game in 2018, NCAA championship game, and that was in April. And I knew that April 1st was the Final Four. It was a Friday. And I knew that Saturday there was going to be a Thorns game. And I knew that Sunday was the championship game. So I thought, what better time to open up than Friday, Saturday, Sunday, blow it out of the water. And then if all goes to hell, we're closed Monday, Tuesday, so we can catch our breath. So my ideal timeline was April 1st from the very beginning, but I didn't publicize it until I knew everything was going to line up because, being in the restaurant business, who knows if the electricity is going to work or if you're going to break like a water main or, if your delivery is going to come in time or anything that happens all the way to the last minute. So I think I announced it like a week before the first. And then I also joked with like a couple people that if I wasn't able to open, I could just be like, "Oh, April Fools, we're not open." And that was like my fallback plan. But I knew that for the most part, we were 99% going to be open on the day that I was shooting for.
Now, in addition, of course, as a sports bar, to having big screen TVs that show women's sports throughout the bar, your whole concept is focused around your slogan of "We support women." I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I've looked at your Facebook page, I've looked at your website, I've read numerous articles and interviews with you, and you are really like going to the nth degree to find female suppliers, female owned farms, female vineyards, or whatever you can find to support the women's community. Was that always a part of the imaginary sports bra since the beginning?
No, absolutely not. A lot of people ask me how, or they say things like, "Oh, you're a genius for thinking of all of these things to do all at once," and it absolutely was not like that. The sports bra was originally just a place to watch women's sports on TV. That was the main. And then it wasn't until like I sat down to write the menu and I thought about my personal experience as a woman in a kitchen, having been, whether it was being overlooked or um, you know, underrepresented. And then I thought about all the women in the food and service industries that get glossed over, including farmers or brewers or distillers, or, women who are all like in these fields, but they never get thought about or they don't get invested in. And so as I was like kind of developing the menu and trying to figure out where I wanted to order things, I kind of thought about like, okay, how much would it cost to get, let's say, for example, Carmen Ranch beef, which is all the beef that we serve here is from Carmen Ranch, which is Corey Carmen. She's a third generation rancher out in Eastern Oregon. And yeah, it's 100% grass fed beef. It's some of the best beef I've ever had. But can we make it, is it feasible to price that and have that be like one option for supporting women? And so it was like, oh, maybe the beef. And it started out like that. And it was just like, okay, the beef, we can do this if we price our burgers a certain way. And then I was just like, oh, I wonder how many women are making beer in Portland. And then I went out and I looked for it, and turns out there's a lot of women making beer in Portland. And then once that ball started rolling, it was just like, okay, how else can we support women in what we're buying, or, you know, even the furniture that we had made for the bra. We connected with Girls Build, which is a nonprofit organization that teaches young girls ages 7 to 13 how to do construction and use power tools and things like that. And so we linked up with them, and they ended up building a couple of really nice pieces for the bar. And, you know, that's just another avenue of supporting the community and inspiring girls. Yeah, and it was just little by little, we just started to be more intentional, but it definitely wasn't there from the beginning. So now every time something comes up, like, oh, let's have coffee. Hey, do we know any women roasters? And like those kinds of things. It's like, yeah, absolutely. Let's bring them in. So it's just about being intentional.
Well, now that you're getting known, I'm sure they're going to be knocking your doors down. They're going to be coming up and saying, hey, you know, I make whatever candy bars, and I have a candy bar business, and I'm a woman, and, you know, everybody's going to be knocking at your door and saying, hey, we're here, and when you need us, let us know.
That is exactly what's been happening. At the beginning, it was difficult. You know, it's hard to find, because those aren't things that people like put out there. It's
right.
You know, reached out to a lot of breweries, and I was like, hey, you guys have any women brewing? And a lot of them would be like, oh, nobody's asked me that. Let me check. And so it was kind of like pulling teeth at first, but now it's just like every day there's a woman brewer or a woman-owned company coming and you know, wanting to be in our space. So it's fabulous, and it's just incredible to know that there are so many women out there to support.
Yeah, I a while back, almost a year ago probably, I interviewed a couple of women who run a business doing like imprinted promotional products and things like that called Brand Pride. And they're two lesbians, and they're based up, I think, in Seattle, if I'm not mistaken. And it was the same kind of thing with them, because obviously they're a gay-oriented, lesbian-owned company that's right in the Pacific Northwest. And a lot of people don't know that. When you go out to look for different products and services, there is no easy way to type in, you know, lesbian-owned basketball manufacturer, because it's not going to come up. You know, it's not something that's usually tagged. So it's pretty cool that you're kind of going out of your way to find these people and to bring them all under one umbrella and make it part of the Sports Bra family. Now, I noticed you also had something on your Facebook page about a product that was done by Frito-Lay called Cracker Jill. Did they already do that, or how did that happen? How did that connection happen?
Yeah, so Cracker Jills, so Frito-Lay was already releasing Cracker Jills as part of a women in sports kind of like a booster almost for when the MLB season started. So they delivered all that stuff to the ballparks to sell, to kind of just raise awareness for women in sports and the women baseball players back in the day, you know? And so I had seen a little bit online, but I didn't really, it was just a fleeting thought or whatever. And then Frito-Lay reached out to me and was like, hey, we think that this product would be really sweet at your bar. Can we ship you some? And so they ended up just delivering like 3 cases for free. And we just gave them out here at the bar, and people were so excited about it because it's a very, very limited edition item.
Yeah, and it's a totally cool product. I mean, it fits right in with your niche, and you know, it's really cool. Now, I noticed on your website, I mean, on your Facebook page, you've done something that I have encouraged bars. I've been in the gay bar scene, one level or another, since the late 70s, and I've been in the gay publishing business in the past. I've been involved in all kinds of different angles, and I have always encouraged bar owners to, either through the publications or through whatever media they have at their access, to talk about their staff and to feature the people that represent their business to the public.
Mhm.
And on your Facebook page, you have an incredible collection of bios of the people that work for you, giving each of them their own spotlight so people can say, oh, wow, that person that works in the kitchen or that person that does this is kind of cool. I can relate to them. I'm new to town. Maybe I can go there and meet them and they'll, you know, help me feel more at home, whatever the case is. What inspired that? Why did you do that? Because I don't see many bars do that.
I think part of it is selfishly because I really hate to be in the spotlight. So a part of it was, making other people be the face of the sports bra, and just taking myself out of it a little bit. But mostly it's because I literally could not do this without them, whether it's the staff or even the people prior to us opening. There was a ton, like I said, there was a ton of people prior to us opening that helped me get this thing off the ground. Business people who specialize in business, people who are accountants, bartenders. I have a friend who we were besties in high school, and she's been working in bars for over 20 years. She came down here for a weekend and just helped me design the bar because I literally have never worked in the bar before. Or I had a friend who all she does is POS systems and knows how to do cash register and all that stuff. I've never touched money in my professional career, so I didn't know how a cash register worked or how to make a deposit or all the simple things of running a business, right? So from the very beginning all the way to today, there has been tons and tons of people that have helped to make this happen. And so I think a part of it for me is making sure that the people who are behind the scenes doing all the work get all the credit because that's what they deserve. You know what I mean? And also I think that with the bra, it's blown up to be this kind of larger than life thing. And I want people to remember that there are your regular people, behind the scenes, plugging away 9 to 5 or longer, 10, 12-hour shifts to make sure that the food is spot on, to make sure that your drink is perfect, to make sure that they're delivering great customer service, all the things that make a business successful. And that it's a lot of hard work. And I never want people to take that for granted or to think that the sports bra is like this larger than life place when it's just a conglomeration of hardworking folks that share the same dream and the same mission. So I think that that's a big part of why I want to give major props to the staff. And I feel like as soon as my staff bios are complete, I'll start doing bios of all of our purveyors, our brewers, distillers, and it'll be a constant thing. It'll be ongoing because I can't imagine it will ever change. We'll always be getting new people in as far as staff. We'll always be getting new products in. And so it's just another way to highlight folks, whether or not they're here anymore. You know what I mean?
Right. Mm-hmm. And they'll always be doing something different. Even if the same people are there for 10 years, they'll have new accomplishments and, new awards they've won, new ideas they've come up with. There'll always be something to talk about.
Exactly. And we feel like we are such a tight-knit family here that, if somebody went and got married or had a baby or something, it would be something that we would announce on our page. And I think that people who follow us can get in on, they can feel a part of the family as well.
Now, you've mentioned a couple of times in interviews and on your social media pages, you've mentioned numerous times your girlfriend, mm-hmm. but she's never really identified. Is she part of the actual operation of Sports Bra, or is she just in the background, supporting and giving you ideas at home and encouraging you and staying out of the limelight?
She is definitely out of the limelight. She is not any real part of the Sports Bra. Her and I are almost exact opposites. So she definitely does not want to be in the limelight. She is her own business owner. She does her own thing. For the most part, she is my rock and my soundboard. I'm kind of, a daydreamer, and she's very realistic, boots on the ground kind of person. So I'll come up with some crazy ideas, run it by her, and she'll kind of be like, how about this? Have you thought about this? And it's a lot more realistic and things like that. So it's a good balance. But yeah, she's definitely not a part of the Sports Bra operations.
Now, a few months ago, I interviewed a couple of women who opened a bar in Washington, D.C. called As You Are. I don't know if you've heard of it or not, but they're a couple, and they own this bar. They opened this bar called As You Are, which in a lot of ways has some similarities to what you're doing there. It's not specifically a sports bar, but they do have the daytime family and food element going on. They do embrace the entire community. They're not trying to be, the old school militant lesbian bar that doesn't want men in there and doesn't want kids in there. They're kind of embracing the whole world of queerness. And it's kind of interesting because when I spoke with them, they kind of felt like that was a very strong part of their bar. Now, in the promotional information I'd seen for your bar, it never mentions the word lesbian or gay or anything like that. It mentions women, and there are some allusions, obviously, to the LGBTQ community. Is that intentional? Are you trying to just be like an everyone's bar, and you don't care if there's straight people there as long as they're respectful of you and your lifestyle and what you're doing there?
Absolutely, yes. I've always seen the Sports Bra as a place for everyone, a place that's safe and inclusive of everyone. So, yeah, I think that is super intentional on our part, and just making sure that is relayed. But the people who gravitate towards a safe and inclusive environment tend to be folks that are part of a minority. So we've definitely seen a larger percentage of minorities, whether it's sexual orientation or other. So that's great. I've had multiple people come in here and say that this is the safest place in Portland that they've ever been. And, it's, on the one hand, it's sad. And on the other hand, it's great that, that we've created a space for folks to really have a sense of belonging.
Now, what was the strangest experience you had as far as a media source or some sort of a news outlet coming and saying, "Hey, can we feature your project on it?" Which one really kind of surprised you the most?
That's a very good question. I think that so Vogue is coming out on Saturday. And I think that when I heard that Vogue wanted to do a feature on the Sports Bra, that was very surprising to me.
So you're going to be calling Billy Porter for fashion advice, what you should wear for the interview?
I am not sure at all. Yeah. I was like, you guys are taking pictures of the bar, not of me. Is that correct? And that's kind of the gist that I was getting.
So you don't have to come out with some kind of a diamond encrusted Swarovski basketball outfit or something.
Absolutely not going to happen.
Now, you've been open almost 2 months now. You're about 7 weeks, I think, that you've been open. And it's always difficult when you're opening a new business, especially something like a restaurant where you're dealing with, perishable goods and, you have fickle clientele. You have to win people over. How has it gone compared to what you had in your mind? Did you expect it to go smoothly, or were you expecting more bumps in the road? How would you review the last couple of months that you've been open?
I would say that I had grossly underestimated how successful the Sports Bra was going to be right out of the gate. I had grossly underestimated that. I thought it was a good idea personally, but I did not realize how many people this concept resonated with. I thought for sure we would get like hardcore women's sports fans, and maybe some lesbians, but I did not expect the outreach of not only the press and media, but the outreach of the Sports Bra, and how like literally it resonated with grandmas, grandpas, grandchildren, straight and not straight people, or just everybody. And so we've just been so busy. And I had not in my wildest dreams did I imagine it would be like that. And so I had grossly underestimated that. And so that was all a shock. And so, not only is it difficult to open a brand new restaurant, but then to open to like the fanfare and just the crazy business that we were doing. So the first 2-3 weeks were really, really difficult. Just, learning on the fly and all of that stuff. So, but now I would say that we're starting to find some trends and kind of balancing out like our schedules and ordering and all the regular restaurant things as we're figuring out what a regular day looks like. Because kind of the wave, I think, of just the novelty wave is somewhat dissipated, and we're starting to see like more regular restaurant hours.
Now, I have never been to Portland. I've talked to people who live there. I've, heard a lot of experiences from people of the Pacific Northwest. Where you are located in Portland, where your bar is located, was that kind of known to be a comfortable gay area, or did you kind of just go there and say, this is where I'm going to open and we're going to see what's going to happen?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's kind of twofold. So one thing was that right when I started looking, I had an ideal location, which was this area. And my brokers were like, why that area out of all the areas in Portland? Because honestly, it's kind of old Portland. It's a little bit of old school, a little bit, I wouldn't say run down, but definitely not like the trendy, nice, fancy, shiny stuff that Portland is known for nowadays. And so I was looking in this area. And secondly, this actual location used to be a gay male sports bar for about 20 years prior, 15 years ago. So I knew that, once I went into this space, I was like, oh yeah, this feels right, but then it's also the neighborhood that I was hoping to be in. And the main reason I wanted to be in this area is because it reminds me of old Portland. I was born and raised in Portland, and there are so many areas now that are so new and fancy that I don't recognize it, And so this neighborhood is about 1.5 miles from where I grew up, and my dad's first job was a block away from here. So this area just feels very much like home to me. So that's kind of why I chose it.
Well, very cool. So there's been some talk, and you've been asked this question before, about people approaching you for opportunities to franchise your concept. Now that you've experienced it for a couple of months, do you see that as a possibility that there may be a sports bra in, Milwaukee or Chicago or New York?
Yeah, absolutely. Before I opened, when I was writing my business plan, I had written into it that I would ideally, like in my wildest dreams, would love to see it in at least a dozen major cities across the country. So that had always been kind of the long-term vision. But based on what I've seen and the response so far, it's probably going to happen sooner than later. What that looks like, I have no idea. But I thought it was going to be like a 5-year plan, but it might be more like a 2-year plan.
Well, it's an amazing concept. I'm surprised, really, when I think about it. Of course, being male and not being the biggest sports fan on the planet, I never really gave a whole lot of thought to sports bars. But to realize when I was reading about your story that there's no women's sports bars anywhere was kind of a revelation. It's like, how is that possible? And how is it that nobody except, this young woman from the Pacific Northwest decided, hey, I should do this, and nobody thought of it before? How is that even possible? But apparently it is. Mm-hmm. And judging by the news coverage you're getting and the response you're getting online, apparently it was an excellent idea.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it has to do with timing too. I've talked to multiple people who had the exact same idea, but anywhere between 25 and 5 years ago. And do I think it would have been successful at that time? I'm not sure it would be. I think right now is, the ideal time to do it, as women's sports is becoming more and more a fixture on everybody's radar.
Yeah, the world is changing. I live in Tampa, Florida, and currently we have a female mayor who she won her competition was a multimillionaire who spent $6 million of his own money to run for local mayor position and lost. The female who won took 75% of the vote, despite the fact that he spent tons of money on it. And she is an open lesbian and an accomplished collegiate basketball player. And, you would never expect that to happen 20 years ago, that an openly lesbian, athletic woman who is a local native would beat out somebody with billions of dollars to spend for their campaign, but it's happening. Mm-hmm. And she's turned out to be a great mayor. So it's pretty cool to see that, women are finally getting a chance to break into these different areas that have kind of been closed off for so long.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
I love what you've done with the bar. I love what you've done with the name, and doing a lot of marketing work with small businesses myself. I want to give you an extra merit badge for the fact that everything that you've done, from the website to Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, everything is the Sports Bra PDX, because you cannot imagine how many businesses. Everyone is different, One is Sports Bra Portland, the next one is Sports Bra PDX, and you can never find anything. So I want to give you bonus points for actually making sure that everything is the exact same profile, so people can find it easily, and you'll get even more recognition online. So, good job with that as well.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to tell us about your new project, and we wish you all the luck in the world.
Thank you so much, Art. I really appreciate your time.
Oh, thank you.
That concludes another episode of the GayBarchives show. For more information about this episode, or to find more episodes, visit GayBarchives.com.